Let's hear it from Joy Dean, Strategic Partnerships at InVibes.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. It's always a pleasure to join MadFest. And today I am here to bring you a few tips for future-proofing your business strategy that we've learned in these uncertain times. So InVibes is a European in-feed advertising solution specialist, and in working with our partners, here's some of the things that we've kind of identified as areas you need to be thinking about in future-proofing your business strategy. So first of all, we're all very much concerned about big picture ideas. We're all very much concerned about continuing to innovate, being best in class, to drive trends. And really what we also need to be thinking, we definitely want to keep that thinking. We want to also include in that in these times is more micro thinking. So you've got the big picture on one hand, which is your macro level strategy. And then you've got your micro insights, trends, events. So things that actually are going to help you allow for and bring forth this innovation that we're talking about. So I think one of the important things to remember is that it's never going to be a single event that allows for this innovation to happen. It's usually a combination of several different events and insights, right? And in order for those things to happen, to really learn from those things, we need to be asking questions. We need to be active in conversations, not just with our clients, but also our partners, our staffs, everyone that's part of the full circle of communication in terms of stakeholders. We need to be open to these new ways of working. So as you know, it's just been turned on its head, and it can be scary, it can be uncomfortable. But what it also is an opportunity to embrace a new way of moving and speaking and messaging within this changing space. So being open to that. Innovation never happens in a bubble. It never happens by doing business as usual. And that doesn't mean you throw out the old things that worked. It means that you adapt them. It means that you add to them. It means that you subtract what doesn't work. And then now more than ever, for sure, we all know collaboration is key. So not just on a human level, if anything, we can all attest to the fact that we are realizing that we need each other more than ever before. But this also can be transplanted into your ways of working and the way that you collaborate in businesses. So there's a lot of companies that are working together to level up their outcomes, level up their messaging and their revenue opportunities overall by this new ability to collaborate in a non-competitive construct. And then, of course, that brings me on to diversification. So this is a hot topic. I mean, if you look at diversification in terms of representation, it matters, right? You want to continue to be creative. You want to innovate. You need to actually have everybody at the table. It's important for businesses to think, to speak authentically. And how can you if you are not representative of the entire ecosystem? And that's both on the side of your partners as well as your staff. Brands are really shifting the way that they are speaking to marginalized groups and including them more in the representation and in the dialogue. So that inclusivity, as I said, will breed your creativity and innovation, which is something that you need to be a sustainable business. And it also ensures that the way we think about our product solutions, it's open, different backgrounds, different education levels, different genders, experiences, sexualities, abilities. These make our vocabulary much more expansive and pushes the limits of what we can create, right? And that's really, really important. The next thing is you have to be flexible, right? You have to be able to adapt. You have to be agile. So this idea of adapting in flow, being responsive to needs of market, it touches back to the previous point in micro thinking is like you have to be active in the communication and conversation, and then you need to be able to respond quickly. No bureaucracy, no red tape, listening to what your clients are needing, listen to what your publishers are needing, and then responding in kind and giving them those solutions. And as well as that, being able to say, you're not the only egg in the basket. So flexibility means flexibility in terms of who you work with and how you work with them, who else you're actually sharing ideas with and bringing to the table. It allows for you to be able to pivot. If you are stuck in one way of working, you'll never be able to pivot as fast as you need to adapt to these changing markets. And if that's one of the biggest takeaways that we can see in this changing time, is that being able to pivot quickly is very important for the sustainability of your businesses. And then it brings me on to working with tech that's focused on outcomes. So a lot of times we have conversations around, we want to have brand awareness and we want to reach this audience, but we want to have this revenue model. And it's really important to be clear about what it is that you are trying, what your end goal is when you're speaking to your tech partners, when you're speaking to your data partners, when you're speaking to your publishers, whoever is in that conversation. And having a consultative approach to how you do business is also a piece that allows for the outcomes to be met. So an example of this is, as I said, we're in InVibes as an in-feed solution. We created a storeroom product. So during lockdown, you couldn't get out to the storerooms. You had no idea what was available to you. So we created a product for our clients that allowed for them to put all of the information about, cars that they have in their showrooms, colors, interiors, pricing, all of these things within a single unit that they could then serve out to the audiences across our network, and make sure that you had the information that you needed in order to get out there when those doors open and be ready to buy. Another piece of that could be the chatbot that we've released, which is, again, it's this idea of brands being able to speak directly to the consumer before the consumer can get to the brick and mortar store. So these are ways that you can actively create opportunities for your partners to get to their end outcome. We're living in, this digital first age. We're all talking about it today. And I think one of the best things that we can deliver in these uncertain times is just our natural response to change. How can you as a business and as a person within this business really adapt, really bring something new to the market, and also bring something that supports your system? My final point, so I'm sure I'm running out of time here, but my final point really is to also think at the level of your staff, right? Think about prioritizing also the health of your team. So you've got your tech. That's great and amazing. You've diversified your product stack, your partners, the mix of your hiring, group. You've thought about the big picture, and you've also brought it down to this activatable micro level. You're working quickly, agile, flexible. Now, who's doing that, right? Your teams. Never before has the staff, your colleagues, your employers, have they never been more important than now? It's important to prioritize this kind of group experience where we are all sharing that we're on the same page. It leads back to collaboration, reduces your feelings of isolation. It allows you to seek out partners. Look at Bloomfest. They recently did an educational piece and also a physical exercise element, really trying to bring something to the table that allows for the individual to feel like part of a greater good. And that then allows them to bond, which allows them to then step into all of these other pieces, which is your bigger picture thinking, micro activation, your diversification, product and placement, flexibility, and then, of course, focusing on your outcomes. How did I do? Thank you so much, guys. I hope you learned something well from that.
Hi, Joy. Thank you so much for that presentation. One thing I'd love to know your opinion on is, so the pandemic's been difficult and horrible and tragic for so many ways, but there has been some good come out of it. And what good things have come out of the pandemic from a marketing perspective? What will you be telling your clients about in the next 6 months and say, I'm really glad that happened because we've learned from that in a marketing context and that we've taken forward? What have been the big wins from this bad situation?
I think I think there's loads of good things that have come out of this. I think that businesses have actually seen that they can do more than they were doing before. I think, the idea of pivoting in messaging, I found that we work with a lot of partners that have previously been afraid to make changes as quickly as they've had to make them before. They feared the ramifications, and maybe we're not speaking to the correct audience. And what we see is that a lot more people are testing and learning faster, testing, learning, testing some more, and continuing to take more steps to come out of their comfort zone, because now they have no choice. And that's a really big benefit for all marketers.
And so what are the new skills that you see emerging in the marketing discipline that we're going to see more of in the next 6 to 12 months?
Oh, goodness. Well, on my side of the business, I'm on the supply side. And what I'm seeing more and more is that publishers are looking to find their own or upskill in their own identification kind of ability. So a lot of publishers have been relying on third-party revenue streams, and now are trying to figure out how do we move forward. And I feel like that's a big change in terms of what they've had to do for themselves to continue to earn revenue from a model that's going to be changing with the loss of the third-party cookie, elephant in the room. And they're looking to seek out and inform themselves and be much more educated in the way that they are dealing with the solutions that provide a replacement. We have our own solution around how we fingerprint a user and match from one user from one site to another, and giving that transparency back and that training back to the publisher so that they can then use that to make decisions that level out the playing field. So we're not so reliant on a small group of the ecosystem that can actually tap into this login system, and that also brings up other issues around logins, publishers losing audiences and Google rankings. So I think the biggest thing from the publisher side is really trying to understand how they can better collaborate with partners that can bring them technology that allows for them to continue to maintain that revenue that they may otherwise lose if they weren't educated in how to make it happen, how to make the leap.
Joy, thank you so much for your presentation today.